Hello, everybody. Welcome to the U.S. Immigration Talk live show every Tuesday at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, where I, immigration lawyer John Kasravi, founder of the JQK immigration law firm, come to you live to take your questions about U.S. immigration law for general educational purposes only on Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, and our two YouTube pages, our Clips page and our regular page. I think we're around 25,000 subscribers. Thank you very much. A lot of people are getting 100,000, so let's see what we do to push those numbers up. If you have already, subscribe to the page so it gets notifications, a lot of additional information we send you. And the best place to really questions is on the YouTube page. I get to see that much easier than the other pages that we have. But let's get it started. Shoot out your questions. I'm sure TikTok is getting live in a second. We'll have a lot of questions from there. But as we always say, this is general educational content only, not intended as individual legal guidance. Now, if you did want to get a lot of information about the marriage green card and fiance visa prices, we have a guide called the Ultimate Marriage Green Card Guide. You're going to love that. It's 70 plus pages going through A to Z of the process to get you started before you even talk with an immigration attorney. To download that guide, go to the website marriageimmigrationlaw.com. Again, marriageimmigrationlaw.com is the name of that website. And if you're interested in citizenship, we have a guide for that called Ultimate Naturalization Citizenship Guide. The website you have to go for that is jqklaw.com/citizenship. Again, that's jqklaw.com/citizenship. And if you want to contact us, the same website, jqklaw.com, just go to the contact us page and we'll take you there. I'm still trying to set up the Instagram page, so I'm a little bit distracted with that. But let's take a couple of questions that came in. Ryan asked, "Hi, John. Thanks for the Q&A. You're welcome. I'm a Canadian citizen born in Iran, live in North America half my life, moved to the U.S. in 2020 on an L1B, married a U.S.-born citizen in 2023, filed I-45 on 130, so went through a marriage green card process. Parents are Canadian citizens. My only sibling is a U.S. citizen, in Texas. Okay. No ties to Iran. Well, you're born there. You're stuck. I'm also volunteer strictly unpaid and unemployment role with my mother-in-law's healthcare company. There's no, for immigration purposes, that could be a violation. There's no volunteer work if it's for a for-profit company and stuff like that. So I got to see exactly what's going on, but that's something you got to be cautious of. Just because you're not paid doesn't mean you're taking a job that a U.S. citizen can be paid for. You're essentially just getting paid for free. So you're doing a job, so that could be a problem. Are there any realistic exemptions, waivers, or public interest humanitarian options in a case like this? Well, you're subject to a pause right now, immigration pause, because you're born in Iran. And they haven't told us what in the world is going to happen with that, how the exceptions are actually going to work. I mean, you could argue that I'm good moral character and this and that. I'm a Canadian, let it slide and stuff. But we really, really have no idea what's going on. So the only real solution right now, until we have more advice on this or clarification or examples, is to just wait. I don't have anything else I can give you, unfortunately, right now, Ryan. But I appreciate you reaching out. H Ball from Chicago says hello to you too. JTXB says, "Sir John, what's up? Good to see you." He asks, "Can I still file I-130 and I-45 concurrently, physically present in the U.S., being from one of the countries which is subject to recent suspended visa?" You could file the case, yeah, just like the previous question, and have it started and pending. But depending on which country you're from, it might just be paused. So it's not clear what's going to really happen with all that. But you may need to do it. Depends on your background case and your status and all that kind of stuff. So a lot of times it's just recommended to do it, but I don't know all the details of your case, so I can't say for certain if you should do that. Saba says, "Are asylum cases still pending?" Yeah, they're still pending, I guess. Some of them, yeah. So we have a lot of people watching our YouTube page, so it's good to see you all. Please feel free to ask your questions. The YouTube app, since the sale yesterday is having a lot of problems, we should get a ton of questions from that app, and I know a lot of people are waiting to come on the show from that one. But if you have questions on TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram, please shout it out, and we'll get to you. Right now, the immigration system is in a huge state of flux. It seems like every 12 hours, something new happens. It was the same last time the Trump administration was here, but they're doing it again, even more so. It's a tactic to overwhelm people by just constantly adding, throwing new piles of wood to the fire and make it burn up even faster and just scare people. So that's something that we are seeing. It is happening all over the world, all of America. And, you're seeing in the news people having issues in Minnesota, that people who have lost their lives. And that kind of stuff is going to continue and probably just get worse with the amount of funding that ICE has obtained to enforce the immigration system. So it's going to be a real wild ride that we're going to be going through the next couple of years. Even if you're going through a legit legal process, basic marriage immigration, as we saw, they suspended for now 75 countries, including Brazil, Russia, Egypt. There's a lot of people from getting green cards until further notice. Whatever that means, you have no idea. And such that kicks out a huge chunk of people that could get green cards just on pause. So what's going to happen? And they're playing around with other people. Indians going to apply for H-1B visas who have right to it in the sense that they were approved. They are unable to get a visa interview to do the interview, just get a visa to come here and work at their companies. And some people had H-1Bs, had to go get a restamping, and now they're like stuck. They're stuck in India, and they're saying in summer they'll have another interview time. But now it's going to 2027. So that they intentionally do this kind of stuff, probably going to lose their jobs. And the government says, well, if they're able to work in India remotely and be okay, then why do you even need H-1Bs in the first place? That might be a tactic that's happening. So it's a really, distressing situation when you have your life, set following the paths that are outlined, and all of a sudden a sudden switch like this happens. Ideally it'd be a more slower change. But the administrations in the past, frankly, didn't do a good job really setting out the laws so people are familiar with it, or setting out things so that these kind of sudden shifts don't happen, or at least prepare people when it comes to these deportations that are happening. The reality is maybe you're out of status, shouldn't stay here, or the border should have been not open, so many people wouldn't have come in to then have to deal with the deportation process and all the problems that creates for them. So the blame goes all around the political system being unable to handle this question about U.S. immigration, and the people are facing the consequences of it because of the carrots that they put in front of them that they followed, and then now they're getting hit with the stick. So we're live on TikTok. If you all have any questions, feel free to shoot out your questions live. The app's having some problems. Usually we have 100 people at least on, but right now it's only one. So there's definitely issues going on with TikTok. But feel free to ask on Instagram if you have questions, YouTube, and on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a popular one where we recently got a lot of people reaching out about cases like the L1 visa, intercompany transfers, national interest waivers. We could generally talk about those as well. One or two of the ways people who get green cards professionally is if the work that they do is in the U.S. national interest. They do something that's going to affect all of America. And if you show that they've done stuff in the past, they're going to increase the benefit of America, they could get this national interest waiver. It's considered EB2C category, and it's still going to take a bit of time, especially from India, but it's still doable. And then there's the L1A, which intercompany transfer. So if you're working for a company overseas for over a year, you could transfer to the United States for their subsidiary or their parent company or affiliate company. And after potentially you file for green card too, if you're an executive or a manager in that position, both abroad in the United States. So that's an option that exists. More and more people are using it. We just got an L1A approved for the CEO of a company from abroad who's starting a startup in the United States. And who knows if the company grows and gets large enough, successful enough in a year or so, we can file for their green card too. So that'd be really cool, and bring some key executive staff that need to be here as they're investing in the United States, hiring in the United States. So it's a big boom to the U.S. job sector, investment sector, because foreign money's coming in to start companies. Now, hopefully, this process continues as visa category. They're not too difficult on it because it is just people bring their foreign money here to start businesses in the United States, to hire people in the United States from all levels, from secretaries on to engineers to hire. So it's a great process. I'm really glad to be part of this process in the immigration system. All right. So if you have any questions, feel free to shout them out. I'm Immigration Lawyer John Khosravi. JD Boss, hi, John. Happy to see you. Thanks for doing this live. You're welcome. Question in relation to the partial travel ban. Do you know if and when they plan to revisit this matter going forward? That's up to the whim of the president and Twitter. So it's like, is he going to get something going to happen where he's going to be like, I want to do this, I want to do that. So there's no game plan. They have timelines. They said within 9 days we do this, that, but there really is no timeline. Essentially, they don't want immigration in the United States to happen. They want to kick everybody out. So it really depends on how much pressure is brought on them by politics, by Congress, by the TV, news networks, and media, and all the things that affect the president publicly. So we don't. There's nothing. There's no rhyme or reason. Plans. It's just like they're putting their foot on the brake, and they see if there's enough pushback to cause them to let it go a little bit for the car to go. That's really how it's going to work. There's no like official logical way that this is moving forward. But thank you for the question. It's a good question. We get it all the time, unfortunately, because I wish there was an answer I could give. The answer is, yeah, whatever the president wants, it's at their whim. The king does what the king does, and we just got to live with it. Katie, thanks for joining. Bora as well. Nav Queen, thanks for joining. If y'all have any questions, please feel free to shout them out. When it comes on the citizenship naturalization front, those cases are still moving forward for people that are not from banned countries. And the interviews are coming up pretty quickly, 2 or 3 months. Now, the key thing about citizenship, if you're going to apply for naturalization, is that you have a clean background. And by clean background, people usually think it's crimes and paying taxes. But more importantly, we got to go back in your history and see what's going on. I had a person contact me, for example, they got their green card and it was approved and they had a removal of conditions. A 2-year marriage-based green card has to be renewed, so they double-check that the marriage is real. Then they filed for citizenship and the government keep approving him. And then after the citizenship set, they realized that the person in the past had a thing called a J1 cultural exchange visa subject to a 2-year home residency requirement. This means that you came to the U.S. on a cultural exchange visa. You're supposed to go back to your home country for 2 years and share what you learned in the United States. And then you could apply for a green card after that, not sooner, because we want to make sure you go home and share that knowledge. Well, this person didn't do that and didn't get an exception waiver for it. And no one noticed until the citizenship. So now this person is not only going to have their citizenship denied, but they're going to get their green card taken away and deported as well. So this is the kind of stuff that happens that should have been caught beforehand. So a person, first of all, shouldn't have filed the green card. But at this point, citizenship, they should have caught that and not applied because they created a lot more havoc than that was needed. In another case, a person contacted us. Their citizenship was being denied because the child that they had, the wife who was applying for a green card had a child with another person, and that child's birth certificate had the other person's last name there, but that while she was married to the gentleman, the U.S. citizen. And the government said, well, this marriage you had might be fake because this person had out of wedlock, out of marriage child. And the U.S. citizen said, no, I was aware of it. It was a bad time we had. We were together. It's legit and stuff. But they didn't prepare the case properly for this issue. They act like nonchalant, like nothing happened. Like, this is a huge red flag. You got to prepare for something like this, have it ready to go. So they didn't do that. They're going to get denied and deportation is going to happen. Then you got to argue in front of an immigration judge to try to fix it up. But if they know ahead of time, they can have personal statements, letters from family and friends, show that the U.S. citizen is raising the child now, school records showing their custody. They go as the parent that goes and visits could pick him up and just hit it straight on and say, listen, this did happen during the relationship, but it's a real relationship. We're sticking with it. Here are joint finances. Here are taxes. Here's school records again. As I mentioned earlier, here's family photos of the child is traveling with the children. Here's a U.S. citizen's parents holding this child who's not their parent, but we're going to love the child anyways. So it wasn't a fake relationship, that this did happen, but the cheating essentially didn't indicate a fraudulent marriage. Just, people mess up. And that's what it shows. So, but they didn't go ahead on that. And then, get the denial. Fixing that up becomes so much of a problem. It's on your record, accusations of marriage fraud and all that. And it was an overzealous officer, should have given them an opportunity to answer this. They did, but the person didn't take advantage of it to properly answer it because they're doing it on their own. Just, it's easy, immigration easy. Just fill out a form. Well, this is the kind of stuff that happens when you think like that. And now they got a lot of stuff to deal with. And at this point, because it's like too far into it, we don't take on that case for office. It's like we try to help people beforehand to prevent these kind of issues. But once it's like all messed up, cleaning it up becomes so much work that we usually don't accept those kind of cases. So just plan ahead of time. Helpless says, is a granted asylum legal status? It is historically, it is status, but sometimes the Trump administration, they're arresting some people on asylum. Refugees came in. So it's a bizarre situation that's going on right now. But it is a form of status. They have asylum, and you can file for a green card after 1 year. All right, thank you, everyone, for joining us on TikTok. Feel free to press that like button and share the feed so that more people know we're taking questions about U.S. immigration law live. If you're interested in scheduling a private consultation, go to jqqlaw.com/contact. That's jqqlaw.com/contact, and download our ultimate marriage green card guide. Discusses the fiancé visa process, the marriage green card process, and we have a beautiful chart at the beginning of it, just planning out what options there are depending on what your background is and what's going on. You can download that guide for free. I think it's like 70 more pages. Go to this website, marriageimmigrationlaw.com. That's marriageimmigrationlaw.com to download that guide. If you're interested in citizenship naturalization, we have the ultimate naturalization citizenship guide. That's on our home website, jqqlaw.com/citizenship, jqqlaw.com/citizenship. Thank you for liking, everyone who's on TikTok, pressing a bunch of likes. I appreciate that. Share the feed as well, so more people know about what we have here. Every Tuesday, 4 p.m. Pacific, we come to answer your questions live about U.S. immigration law. All right, let's go to another question. H Ball asks, "Hi, I received a reminder notice from USCIS to file the I-751 removal of conditions. I have a 10-year green card, which is approved after more than 2 years of marriage. Do I have to file the I-751?" Well, sometimes USCIS makes the mistake. First and foremost, go check your green card. Does it say CR1 or does it say IR1? And just compare your marriage date and confirm that the green card was issued. The issue on the green card is more than 2 years. If it is more than 2 years, you're not supposed to file the I-751. They should have given you a 10-year green card. You should formally contact USCIS to let them know it's an error so they don't, by mistake, send you to the immigration court for deportation. But if you had, your green card issued before your second year anniversary, then you need to file Form I-751. Be aware of that. That's going to be something that's important. The hater her, thanks again for liking the video so much. Sebi asks, "Hi, hope you're doing well. Thank you. Can you still have dual citizenship in the U.S., or would it soon be a law to choose only one country to be a citizen of?" So I don't know if it's soon to be a law. There are people in Congress, the group that makes the laws, that are trying to do that. But every year there's thousands of laws that are attempted that don't go anywhere. So, a lot of it's politics. A lot of it, people do it so you can say they're doing it to get, votes and money and stuff like that. Will they take away dual citizenship? Probably no. Probably no. I don't want to know details why I think that's, but it's very unlikely that they'll prevent dual citizenship from happening in the United States. There are too many countries the U.S. is really friendly with will have dual citizens, and they will lose out, so they wouldn't do that. Inevitably, it'd be vetoed or something like that. All right. Please press like to share, and also share this feed so other people know they can ask questions about U.S. immigration law. I'm immigration lawyer John Khosravi, founder of the JQK Immigration Law Firm. We help particularly families, married couples, and fiancés get green cards. We've got a lot of cases, a lot of Canadians and Australians recently who are getting married. We're helping them out. And also people who are starting small business in the U.S., either E2 visa or the L1, the owner of a company, the CEO is transferring the United States to a subsidiary that they've created, and they want to expand their company, be a multinational company with offices in the U.S. We help those L1A, E2 visa, and EB1A extraordinary abilities. The people are top of their field who won awards for their work. They have articles written about newspapers and all the different ways to showing you have extraordinary ability in your field. We help them get green cards and be able to have residency in the United States and expand and grow even more. Those are the things our office focuses on. So I wanted to come here and share that with you. If you have a case like that, you're interested in learning more, please schedule a consultation. Go to jqklaw.com/contact. Again, that's jqklaw.com/contact, and fill out your information there, name, contact info, and brief description of your situation so that I know what's going on. People sometimes reach out and they say, "I'm looking for asylum." And I say, "We don't do asylum. I can't help you." People sometimes have certain criminal history, arrests, and convictions. We don't handle those cases. If you're in immigration court, we don't handle immigration court cases either. So that's why it's important to just fill that in so we know what kind of case you're looking for, and we don't waste your time by having you have a meeting, a consultation, all that kind of stuff, just to realize that it's not something our office handles. So feel free to go to our website, jqklaw.com/contact, to ask to fill us in. All right. If you're on TikTok, feel free to ask any questions about U.S. immigration law. We'll do our best to answer you and give you an idea of what's going on. The Instagram page is a little bit problematic. I'm not sure if it's the new people who bought it to change things up or it's just a daily glitch that's happening. But usually it's a much more active feed. We'll see. It's a whole new day in TikTok. It's a good 5 years or so while it lasted 5 or 6 years. But it's all good things must come to an end. But luckily, we still have other things like LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube to be able to share contact information and media. Saul says, "Hi, I'm currently on workers' compensation. Also filed a lawsuit against my employer, workers' comp. Will it affect my renewal process, DACA?" I don't think so. Workers' compensation is an insurance program that you pay into. You're entitled to it. It's not a government benefit. And if your employer had issues, you could sue them. Those are all civil issues that you could deal with. For DACA to have problems, it has to be criminal issues. So a lot of times people get DUIs, they can't renew their DACA. And DACA being the program where if you entered the United States before a certain date when you were young and you haven't had issues, they allow you to get a work permit and have deferred actions. That means they could still if they want to, but they'll try not to pursue you for immigration court for being deported from the United States. So workman's comp in a lawsuit by itself is not a problem. Now, if your employer, files, criminal charges against you or something, that's a whole different story. It's like they accuse you of stealing stuff from the company or hitting somebody at work. that becomes, assault and battery, that becomes fraud. Those are problematic. I don't think that's the case here. But that's what would be problematic if that gets pursued and there's a record of that happening. But if it's workman's comp, you got hurt on the job and your employer wasn't, taking care of things, watching out for you the way they're supposed to, that's just, employment law and civil law and stuff like that. So it shouldn't affect DACA renewal. Now, DACA renewal has been happening like normal, but they may get stricter on this administration. So make sure you have your paperwork in order. One thing we find is people who do their deferred action for child arrivals, DACA cases on their own, is they don't fill out that form properly, IA-21D, and they have missing information there. History is off or wrong. They may have other names or dates of birth they use that they forgot to put in there. And that becomes a problem because every time you fill in the form and you're missing information that should have been there, they could accuse you later of you lying or misrepresentation or hiding information that's important, which could become problems like for accusing you of misrepresentation or fraud for doing that. And it's an honest mistake a lot of times because people hate filling out forms, and so they just do it in a rush, and that becomes a problem later. So that's the kind of things we watch out for. Seb asks, I want to apply for citizenship. Would they need ties to show like bank statement or medical record? It depends on your background, but no, if you're going to file for citizenship based on the 5-year model, you've been a green card holder for 5 years, they're not going to focus on medical records or bank statements. That's not something that really comes up. First of all, I would say download my guide, the Ultimate Naturalization Citizenship Guide, Sepide, at jqqlaw.com/citizenship. But the primary things they look for, there could be a lot of different things, depends on your background. But they're looking for if you spent too much time outside the United States, if you have any criminal history, you've been arrested or that kind of thing, have you paid taxes or not, how you originally obtained your green card, with any issues that are problematic there that come back now. And it could be a myriad of other stuff depending on your background. Now, based on your name, I'm assuming you're from Iran originally, and that's going to be a problem because although you can file the case, those Iranian cases that file for citizenship, they're green card holders that file for naturalization citizenship now, they are paused. So you can start your case, but it's not clear when, how, what's going to happen after that. So be prepared for that delay that's there. Salam Boss Monter says, good to see you. One of my regulars. I saw you go live and became curious. When I applied for citizenship, I would not have any trips over 6 months, but for the first 2.5 years, I would be out frequently, but always coming back. Well, but always come back within 2 weeks. The INA and the regulations start mentioning continuous presence over 6 months, nothing for under 6 months. Keep going. So the reality is, if you look at the USCIS policy manual, this is what the people at USCIS are adjudicating. Look, if you're outside for more than 1 year, it resets your time for getting citizenship. You got to wait a whole new 5 years, or 4 years, 6 months, and 1 day is what I say. They say 4 years and 1 day, but it's really 4 years, 6 months, and 1 day. But if you have absences between 6 months and 12 months, they could accuse you of breaking this thing called continuous residence, that you weren't continually residing in the United States. But if you have a lot of trips of like 2 months, 4 months, 6 months constantly, where they can't show that your ties to the United States where you were actually living here, then that could be a problem. So we got to be able to show that although you were constantly leaving, your ties were to the United States. You're still living here. You had a house here. You had work here. Kids going to school here. Your spouse is here. And the previous question I was asked by Sepide about medical records and bank statements, that would be needed if you're constantly outside the United States to show that you're actually living here. It's just you're absent, but here I'm really living here. Here, look, here's my doctor's records. Here's my bank statement. Show I'm paying rent here, paying bills here, all that kind of stuff. That's when it will come up. So we got to see what the issue and how bad it looks is, and then think about how to prove the other situation, how to rebut the presumption or accusation that you've broken continuous residence in the United States. Marlon King asks, when is the country that has the ban going to start getting the immigrant visa again? I don't know. You have to ask President Trump that, not me. Talk Pearl says, hi, John. An RFE was received after filing a marriage adjustment from a USCIS spouse tax info to determine if they qualify as a sponsor. But the documents requested were in the packet. How shall one respond to such an RFE? Unfortunately, this happens a lot when you apply for a family-based green card, like a marriage green card. You have to have a financial sponsor, typically the U.S. citizen spouse or green card spouse or U.S., the citizen family member, green card family member that does it, unless you have joint sponsor. What we find frequently is despite sending everything, sometimes in duplicate, USCIS comes back with a request for evidence. This says you're missing something, you need to send it, and you have like 90 days to send it. And it's frustrating because you'll be like, wait a minute, I sent all the documents. They specifically list here, you're missing this document. We sent all that. How's that possible? That happens all the time. I'll say about 10% of the time that happens. And it's very frustrating for the couple, the family members, and clients sometimes get frustrated at us as the attorney. Like, how did you forget such an important thing? And I'm glad you brought it up here. The government does this stuff. They mess up pretty frequently, frequently enough, statistically speaking. And they ask for stuff that we already sent him, but you just, make sure your stuff is in order. Now, I haven't reviewed your documents. Maybe your spouse's income records you didn't send all the ones you needed. Maybe they don't make enough money. I don't know. I haven't seen it for myself. But let's say everything was perfect. You just resend the stuff you had and say, hey, I sent it before, and I'm resending again. Here's a tax return. See the I-64, W-2s, 1099s, pay stubs, evidence of citizenship, and anything else that potentially might be there if you're using assets, all the asset paperwork and documentation that you need. So it really depends on your case, but it does happen when they ask for stuff that you already did. SFE_blog says, I renewed my DACA. The last lawyer who filed did not put my passport information and got approved. This time I went to a different law firm. They did include my passport info. Passport info for DACA doesn't really make a difference if you include that or not. So I'm going to look at the form right now, Form I-21D. To see if the current version requires passport information. They have to update the form, maybe. That might be it. I think they updated the form, or at least they added something to the 765. We're actually going to renew a DACA case next week or in February for one of my clients. He's going to hit the 100. You can only renew your DACA when you have like 120 days, 150 days, or something like that. And it's coming up in February, and so we're going to do that. But in the application, I'm looking right now, I-21D for DACA renewal. I don't think it asks about passport information, education, place of initial entry, passport number. Yeah, it asks for it, so you'd include it. But wait, that might be for renewal, for initial and renewal request. Okay. I mean, they should have done it. Maybe it wasn't on the old form. I don't know. This new edition came January 2025. So maybe in the previous version it wasn't there. But if they approve it, it shouldn't matter. Just passport information is not that important. So yeah, because you say it's not sure if they should add it since it wasn't on the last application. It's on the current form of the version of the form, so it's there. Maybe the last version didn't have it, but overall, it shouldn't matter if it got approved. And they probably have in the system from your previous application, so it wouldn't be something that looks like fraud or misrepresentation that you're trying to hide information. So I wouldn't worry about it. Seven follows us. Sorry, you done none of this part. I had 3 trips overseas during the 5-year period. Each lasted 178 days. I didn't work due to medical conditions. I didn't file taxes. So those are problematic. If you did, 3 trips overseas for like 2 days, less than 6 months, it's going to be based on your background and the officer that you get, how they want to deal with it, that they could deny your case or have you multiple absences of long duration, less than 6 months, but long enough. So that could be problematic in those kind of cases. And this is why we have consultations. We can't really answer full questions here because, all of a sudden this big, huge chunk of information comes out. We got to sit half an hour, 40 minutes to talk about all the stuff. But this is where you got to look at your medical records, evidence of your ties to the United States, what you're doing here, what your connection was, that you're actually living here, so they don't have a problem with it. But it's going to be up to officer discretion at this point, because 3 trips that long could be problematic. You're welcome, S&P Block. Jasmine asks, can I travel internationally? I'm on Medicaid, but I have a green card for 3 years. So I don't know what you listed in your Medicaid application. If you had improper information or stuff like that, that could be problematic for your green card. They could accuse you of stuff. In the past, it didn't matter. Frankly, it was okay. But under Trump administration, things are changing. So can you travel? I don't know enough about you and haven't reviewed your paperwork, your background, your documents, both your green card stuff and your medical stuff and personal history. So I can't give you that advice here in the public forum. Nini asks, if I have a SIJ, special immigrant juvenile, and transfer to marriage-based green card, is that a red flag? I don't think it should be a red flag. You never know. Some officers might think of that. But, it's a faster way to get a green card based on marriage and it's on SIJ, and much less paperwork and hassle. So if you got married, I'd usually go that route. But I need to review your whole history to say whether it's like good or not and whether red flags may exist. Because I don't know what you've said or admitted to in your SIJ application, how far you're into it and on that. So we really got to just see what's going on in the past. Shiva Shankar says, hello, sir. Hello to you too. Talk Purple says, thank you. You're welcome. And Jasmine asks the same question over and over again. Okay, Jasmine. You just spammed the whole place. Google Land says, my individual hearing is next month when my app says case is still pending. Can I send my evidence? I don't know. You got a hearing, you got to prep for it. You have to have a lawyer and you spend a lot of time prepping it. So you should be prepared. But contact the court, confirm with them. There's always different ways to do. But you should have an immigration and private that you work with. That's a serious thing if you have an individual hearing. It's no joke. All right, everybody, it's going to hit the 30-minute mark. We'll be here again next week, 7 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. I'm immigration lawyer John Khosravi. If you're interested in having your private consultation, go to our website, jqqlaw.com/contact, and fill out the information there so we know more about you before we schedule a consultation time. And if you're interested in a marriage or fiancé visa, download our guide, the Ultimate Marriage Green Card Guide. It's at marriageimmigrationlaw.com. Again, that's marriageimmigrationlaw.com. I wish you all the best. God bless. Be safe. I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.